Today, Bob the data analyst was asked to build a report that showed the prior week's KPIs. He connected to his source file and then realized it contained years' worth of data. Far too much for his report. What is he going to do? Welcome back to our video series on Power BI Basics, where we're teaching you how to use Power BI from the ground up, with short, easy to follow tutorials we release daily. Today we're going to be looking at how to filter data with Power Query. So, let's jump in. Alright, today we're going to be reviewing a couple of different ways to apply a filter. First, we need to understand what a filter is in Power Query. A filter is a Power Query step that we apply as part of our transformation process. When we apply a filter, it loops through every single row, and the filter either evaluates to true or false. If the filter evaluates to true, it includes the record. If it evaluates to false, it excludes the record. Alright, so let's jump in. There are two different ways to apply a filter. The first is to actually click on this little drop down right here on the column, and then go through and build out your filter. The second is to type it, and that's a little bit more advanced, so we'll cover that at the end. First, let's apply a filter by clicking the drop down. So let's apply a filter on this date. Let's click the drop down, go to date filters, and then here we see all of the individual filters that we can apply, including a custom filter. So let's keep things simple. Let's go ahead and let's find all records that were as of the 9th of January in 2022. If we click this and then click OK, you'll see that it's applied this filter, and you can tell that there's a filter icon up here. There's now been a step added here with applied filtered rows, and then there's the actual formula of the filter that's been applied here. Now, when you click these drop downs, you might see different options depending on the different data types of the columns. So in this case, if I click date, I see all of these filters, dynamic date filters right here. But if I click product, which is currently, or product ID, which is currently classified as a whole number, I see a whole different other set of filters. And you can go ahead and you can stack these on top of each other. So I could go equals, and in this one, when I click equals, it gives me a UI pop-up, and I can go through and I can set the filter. So in this case, I want to say filter rows basic equals, and I'll type 1. And so now we're only getting a column or records that were from a sale on 1/9/2022, column 1. Now you may have noticed that when I applied the filter by going here and then going number filters and then equals, that it gave me a UI pop-up. In this UI pop-up, you can set multiple conditions for the filter to evaluate on. So let's just say I wanted product ID 1 or I wanted product ID 2. I click right here and I could say equals 1 there, and you'll see that I'll now have the filter that includes either product ID 1 or 2. In this case, I didn't have any records, so it didn't really do anything. But, well, actually, let me delete that out, the step above. There we go. So now I've got my sale record that includes 1 and 2. But what if I wanted to also include 1, 2, and 3? Well, I could go back, and I can go back into our equals, and I can click this advanced button. This advanced button will allow us to add multiple criteria that will evaluate from top to bottom. And I can move that criteria up or down by clicking these 3 dots and then moving it up or down. So I could go product ID equals 1, and I could change this to an OR, and I could say equals 2, and then I could change this to an and then I could go equals 3. Right? So now it'll go 1 or 2 and 3. So if we now look at this, and again, I still have the filter applied, I'm going to go ahead and delete that step. I'll go ahead and delete this step up here. You'll now see that there's now this code up here where it's saying each product ID equals 1 or 2 and 3. And you might notice we're only getting ones. Now, Why is that? Well, that's because of the order of operations. So currently it's evaluating 1 as either a true or false. Then it's evaluating product ID equals 2 and 3. And a product ID can't be both 2 and 3 at the same time. So if we change this to an OR, you will see that we will start getting data for product ID 1, 2, or 3. And I had a little typo there, so let's go OR. And if I check, now when I go here, we're now getting data for product 1, 2, or 3. Now, I don't know if you caught this, but I was actually typing in a filter up here. And that brings us to our more advanced technique. And that's actually writing out the filter the same way that you would in Excel. So let's look at what this formula looks like. First, it's referencing, so it's going table select row, and it's referencing the step above it in Power Query. So in this case, it's filtered rows is referencing change type. Then it's saying for each one of those rows, evaluate this expression. Now, I could evaluate this expression with parentheses. So I could go say, and I could say evaluate if 1 or product equals 1 or 2. And I could say, and location ID. So I could add in a filter on location ID. So I could go, for example, here, and I could go and location ID in here equals 44. And we'll see if I get a syntax error. Sometimes the spacing is a little weird here. But look, there it is. So I'm now filtering on multiple columns with multiple criteria on the same time. Now, one thing, because I actually typed this in the formula box, I've lost my ability to go into that UI. So that's just something to be aware of. But this allows you to do some really advanced and unique filtering. Now, there's a lot more to unpack here. So if you're interested in this, or if you're having to filter a lot of data, I'd really encourage you to do a deep dive. But if you're just wanting to kind of get in and muck around with things, this is a good starting place. Now, let me know if you have any questions. And if you're interested in learning more about Power BI, please subscribe. I'm currently releasing a new video tutorial on Power BI every single day, and I'd be happy to have you along for the journey.